I just want to say to the Minister that when the banks were in trouble, they came to the Minister, to the government at the time, and they were bailed out. Now, they obviously told lies in relation to how they were fixed at that time, which would have put a different complexion on it had the Minister perhaps known everything. But they were saved. And now when people have to be saved, they are telling untruths by saying, oh, we have to do it for Europe. We know now they don't have to do it for Europe. And there is a mechanism there where they can park an awful lot of this debt, work down through it, have their balance sheets right for Europe, and at the same time help the Irish people, or generally the people in Ireland that are actually affected by these distressed mortgages. So there's a lot more that can be done, but they just won't do it. Now, Deputy Kelleher mentioned about the interest rates. Why is it, for example, in the recent report on community banking, that you wouldn't hear of it? And yet you have Sparkasse Bank in Germany offering tracker mortgages at 1.3 or 1.5%, and we can't do it here. The very same banks are making, what is it, 1.5 billion euros a year. They don't pay a tax. Some of these other fellows have charitable status. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. It beggars belief why the government will not take on the banks. And I'm not asking you to interfere in their business. I'm asking you to set out the demand that they exercise some sort of social conscience around the remaining mortgages that are currently in the banks, to prevent people from being dragged through court, to prevent them from losing their homes, and to prevent them from complicating further the local authority housing list. There is a social consequence and cost here that no one seems to be measuring. And I would encourage you, Minister, to take that step and bring them in and force them to a position where they acknowledge all of what was done for them and they do something for the country in return. One last point to here, look. When you go on the credit bureau, an awful lot of businesses that broke down during the bad times, and they've been cited on the credit bureau, they won't get money from banks for 7 years. So they cannot get loans to rescue a viable business to keep it going. And yet we have credit unions with 7 billion who want to play their role, and they're regulated by a central bank that's protecting the main banks. It doesn't make sense. And if you were to exercise some form of authority over them and talk to them, they might release the money into the economy. We might get houses built. We might get businesses at local level supported by a credit union movement or a community banking movement that understands what local economies are all about. And you might get more competition and less of that protectionism that's going on between the banks. Isn't it amazing that they all entered into the tracker mortgage scandal and adjusting their books around the same time for every single one of them? And you say they have to rebuild their balance sheets after that. They're actually only giving back to the people the money that was stolen from them. They stole the money. And now they had to be dragged before committees where they started telling us that there was 4,000. And that went up to 17,000. They couldn't even count the numbers that they had tricked and conned out of their money. It is only the customers' money that has been given back to them. I show no quarter for those banks.
Thank you, Deputy.
And they're not treating you fairly, Minister, and they're not being honest with the state once again.